Welcome, IT changemakers, to the DEX Show with Tim Flower and Tom McGraw. Let's get into it.
You know what it is, changemakers. It's the DEX show within a show within a show. And no, I'll never get bored of saying that. And you know, I was asked recently if we're ever going to run out on these Reality Bytes special episodes of fascinating Nexthinkers to have wonderful conversations with. And I told them, I said, we're never going to run out of special guests for this show because Nexthink is just that kind of an organization. And to that end, let me welcome a very special Nexthinker. Known him for almost 6 years now. It's Maurice. How you doing, Maurice?
Oh, good, Tom. Good to meet you again.
Good to meet you again. We've known each other 6 years, Maurice. I don't think that's quite a phrase, but
it's a long time in Nexthink life, right?
It is a long time in Nexthink life, and we're running in fairly parallel tracks, you know, occasionally crossing over, Maurice. But for people who don't know you, listening in, quick introduction, please. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, Maurice van der Driessche, solution consultant, Nexthink, based out of the Netherlands, supporting the Benelux and Nordic region, every now and then UK as well. And like you said, in September, 7 years with Nexthink.
Oh wow! So you just started just before me. And what was your background before you came to Nexthink then?
Before Nexthink, I was a service management, asset management, and governance process specialist, somewhat techy as well, but mainly processes for many years. That's why I'm so gray.
And you know, what about what brought you, shall we say, closer to the DEX space specifically? What would you say the main ports of call were on that journey?
Well, the main thing I joined Nexthink actually was that I love all these processes for service management and governance and what have you. But the biggest downside in those processes was the data supporting the processes. And the data typically was incorrect, unreliable, or just not there. And especially in IT service management, enterprise service management, I thought, okay, so Nexthink actually can help with their DEX solution to have those processes to start make sense as well. And all of a sudden, incident management and change, and specifically root cause analysis / problem management, start to become a process you can actually execute upon in the right way because you know what you're talking about.
And all the time that we've worked together, I've always thought of you as something of an authority on the XLA specifically, Maurice. Is that reasonable of me to do so? And if so, where does the affinity or specific fascination with XLA as a kind of body of knowledge come from, do you think?
An authority, well, that's a big statement. I'm a big advocate, that's for sure. So my first training for XLA was like 5 years ago, 2021 or something, 2020, just before COVID hit in 2020. And the reason I like it is because I have an IT background. I used to work for EDS, a service provider, and we always thought whatever we decide as IT is the best for the customer. And typically it is not. I did a lot of service management implementations, worked on one for 2.5 years. It went live and nobody was happy because we did not listen to the needs of the end user with regards to a process or the needs from their point of view. It was all IT driven. And I'm very service focused. So I like to know what drives Dina or what drives you, Tom or Ella. What do you need from me? What do you need from us? Because if I don't know it, I like to, improve my knowledge on that level and share that you share that with me so I can adopt my services. I used to do a training on business and IT alignment as well. And I think that's the old terminology for XLA. It's been out there for so long, but now finally with XLA, there's a mean to actually put this into practice. And that's why I think I've embraced it so much.
Yeah. And we had a fascinating episode recently, Tim and I, talking to Alan Nance from I think the XLA Institute as a president is, right? And I know you listened to that, Maurice. And we thought that we've got a few of most of the Reality Bytes team here today. We've got Sean, Oriana, and Dina with us. And I know we all wanted to just take this opportunity to pick your brains on XLAs, go a little bit deeper maybe And I know everyone's got a few questions for you, and we're going to begin, I think, with Dina, if she's there.
Yes. You've had a lot of frontline experience with customers and interactions. How would you characterize the real world state of XLAs in 2025 now?
Booming. It's all over the place. It typically, stuff like this starts in the Netherlands and the UK. It was actually invented by a Dutch guy in 2007 already. And typically like the ITIL movement we had years ago, I see XLA as the ITIL movement as well, but faster. Because everybody talks about it. We need it. And I think it got a boost after Corona because we have no clue what we talk about. People are basically disconnected from IT services, their local support desk or the people who they can walk over to, or Ella, you have an issue, and then you go to Oriana and ask her, how do you have the same issue, or how do you fix this? That's all not there anymore. So we need to know what's on your mind. What are you suffering from? We just need to know. And with XLA, that's the big thing, right? And we don't like people leaving our organizations. We want to keep them within the organization. And therefore, you need to know what drives them to stick with the organization they work for. Hence, XLA.
True. I think post-COVID, now we have more urgency or a sense of urgency to look at the actual experience of our people, right? Rather than just what IT thought of things. So
exactly.
Yeah, totally agree with you. So are organizations truly making decisions now based on XLA insights, or there's still this gap between the measurement and taking action? Like you mentioned earlier on ITIL, it's been there for years and years, but it has been operationalized only more or less in the recent years.
Yes and no. So there are organizations that are starting to embrace XLA at this point, and they are pretty much in their first phase. Therefore, it's the measurement at this point. What do we have out there? What do we know from a technology point of view? But also, what do we have from a sentiment point of view? And that's why Nexthink is so critical in the whole XLA. We deliver 2 out of 3 key point measured points in an XLA: sentiment data and operational data coming from ServiceNow, technical data also coming from Nexthink. So we see customers that are mature already in XLA. They take decisions based upon the input that they have. They have the sentiment data, they have the tech data, and they can combine the two easily and then say, oh, okay, we actually made a wrong decision here because we thought as IT to do ABC. Apparently, the end users want DEF. So looking at the data from a sentiment point of view, from their feedback, plus the technology data, and maybe even the operational data, the KPIs, they have every right to say, we want DEF, and you are rightly so asking for DEF. We as IT made a mistake. So you can easily, change a project, and hopefully early in the start of a project. And that's why you see it embracing, and not just IT. I think that's the key point as well. It's not just IT anymore. It's outside of IT, and that gives the real power.
Totally agree. And adding more service owners within the business, I think, empowers any business towards their DEX journey, right?
So a key thing in there is that the mindset of those service owners need to be correct. So they need to have this goal, this ambition to actually go this route, but they also need to have the time available to spend on this. If not, it is doomed to fail, right? It's not about the XLA anymore. It's about the experience management office, where they actually take all that data into account, consume the data, and take decisions from that data. But if you cannot do that, then the XLA on its own has no point.
Totally agree. And this leads me to the last question I have, which is the XLA just the new SLA? And how much risk is there in simply just rebranding the old KPIs in a shinier, fancier name?
Well, Dina, I think you just said it. It's about KPIs only, an SLA. So we do have prospects, customers, MSPs, so service providers, actually say, oh, if we just rename the SLA to an XLA, we can answer the RFP where the customer wants us to execute on XLAs. No, a KPI is only one of the 3 pillars of an XLA. So yes, it supports an XLA. And yes, we do need the KPIs, capacity, performance, availability, absolutely, but they are all about output. And we want to know about outcome. And the outputs are a subset of the outcome, the ambition that you have with an XLA. So it's part of an XLA. It's not, XLA does not replace an SLA.
Maurice, while we're talking about these metrics and really making sure people are defining them correctly, one of the things we've talked about a lot on this podcast is that it can be really challenging to make sure you are not just measuring things, but also actually delivering meaningful change. So I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how do you think organizations can strike the balance between measuring an experience and making sure that ensures the delivery of meaningful change?
So that's I think we touched base on a little bit already with the XMO. I think the measurement is the easy part, right? We have Nexthink. We measure the technical data. It's just there. The data is there, simple. We measure sentiment, so we can ask the end users for their feedback. It's just there. But then, I think some of our customers told that experience, you asked, we deliver. So when you, as an end user, you give feedback, you need to be ready as an IT organization or any organization that's part of the XLA definition that you can actually deal with the feedback based upon other data that you have available within your XLA definition, within your XMO. So listening and the measurement coming out of it, that's the easy part, right? We have all this, but now how do we, as an XMO, take that into a changing environment? And that's XLA is also everything about adoption. You need business change. Look at the world we live in now these days, right? We are all a bit nervous with what's going on with Pakistan, India, the US, Ukraine, Russia. It's all over the place. And you see organizations change the way they work. For instance, we have organizations in Holland anyway. They say, oh, cloud first. But what's happening now as a government agency, for instance, it's on-prem first again, which means if your XLA was based on a cloud application that you offer to the end user and they expect something from it, you need to change that all of a sudden, almost overnight every now and then to say, okay, no more cloud applications, only on-prem locations, fed clients, nothing more in the public cloud, only private cloud. That could also be a decision, but still you need to adopt. So those measure points that you have, and who is still using a cloud solution, for instance, that's what you can see in the measurement, and then take corrective action immediately. And then you don't care about the sentiment anymore, right? And you just do it because it's part of the critical business that you are in. It needs to be in the private area. So yeah, measuring is easy, but doing with those measuring data points is the most challenging part. You need to act upon it. And we do see organizations that execute on XLAs. They do execute on those changes. Migration project, for instance, we have a customer going from SAP to version 3 to version 4, going from Jira to ServiceNow. Oh, okay. Technically, it can easily be done, right? We have those measure points. But how does Tom feel using ServiceNow now? Or how does Sean feel going away from Jira into ServiceNow or version 4 of SAP? Maybe technically it's okay, but typically those big change projects is all about sentiment. And you need to understand the sentiment because we can roll it out within Nexthink, right? We are changing applications every now and then because we make different decisions than just IT. We listen to our Nexthink employees. But I like to test it first with Tom's department. And before I roll it out, understand the sentiment amongst that change. Maybe even communicate in a different way to the rest of Nexthink before rolling it out to the bigger community. And that's how you constantly measure and change.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned having a plan to take action when collecting feedback. I know that's one of my favorite soapboxes. It's something that I include in all of the trainings that I do. I think it's so important for organizations to have that in mind when they are measuring things? Like what is the strategy that you're going to take if you get different types of feedback? So go ahead and mention that. Yeah. So something else
Victory loves preparation, right? So the plan,
Yes.
you need to have a plan. Simple.
Mm-hmm. So something else I'm curious to hear your perspective on, especially given your sort of breadth and length of experience, is how do you think XLAs need to evolve to better serve all the different types of work experiences that are out there now, right? Hybrid workers, frontline staff, non-desk roles. All of these are relevant in 2025.
I don't think they need to involve as such. It's more the learning process from the departments that are responsible for whatever the XLA is in 2025. It's for the hybrid working, for instance. You need to have some kind of environment. But it's not just IT anymore. I think that's the main thing that needs to evolve. And you need to start defining XLAs with regards to non-IT as well. Because I know we internally in Nexthink, right? We have this survey constantly. Do you advise people to work for Nexthink? Yes or no? Would you give your manager an 8 or a 9? Whatever kind of information. They're all nice indicators. But it's the total puzzle of, do I like to work for Nexthink? Yes or no? Maybe there are 20 attributes for any organization to say, I want to work for Nexthink because great people, great product, nice manager, good team, nice digital workplace, that kind of stuff. But if you take out a few out of the equation, out of those 20, you are unhappy, and that will have an impact. So you need to make sure that in all those areas, you need to make people happy. And today, with the XLAs that we are currently implementing in most organizations, some are already a bit further. Onboarding, for instance, is a key one. It touch bases on a lot of items within, that create your happiness to work for an organization. And that's the critical thing, I think. Step away from IT, because IT only with every respect for IT, delivers only a piece of the puzzle value-wise. How can other stuff also contribute to the value of an organization, right? Because if I'm happy, I will become loyal, right? If I'm a happy Nexthinker, I am a happy Nexthinker. I will be a loyal Nexthinker, right? You can have headhunters all over the place, but if you're happy, you don't listen to those really. And if you're loyal and happy, you become proud, and that's something I will show to my customers. They will see I am proud of Nexthink, so I will live up to the brand promise. Pedro, he made up something 21 years ago, right? It's still a very, very hot topic. We are number one. We are leading. I want to be part of the journey. So this is my message to my customers. And that leads off to the brand promise. The brand Nexthink gets more value, shareholders happy, and we are all happy. And that's, I think, the total XLA picture should be in the end. Not just IT, but make it bigger. And that's a challenge that you have. And that's a journey you should embark on starting in 2025, because it will go fast. If you don't go there, you will lose people, you will lose employees, because they will find something they are unhappy about and leave.
Yeah.
Maybe I will answer.
It is a good answer. I guess I'm just curious to build off of that. Are there any other places besides maybe connecting to areas outside of IT that XLAs are still falling short or could be improved?
I don't think XLAs themselves fall short or improved. Of course, there's always improvement in the way you ask questions. It's very much culture driven. So that's an improvement, of course, you can have, because, I'm Dutch and also very direct. So 1-on-1 is 3 in directness, which may not every now and then work if I do a survey that I design for Dutch audience and then relate it to UK audience or Swiss audience, right? They're like, whoa, this is pretty in my face, this questionnaire. So there's the adoption. It's more the XMO that is the critical part. Like I think I said it earlier, you need to have the mindset. Fine, you start with XLAs, and then you need the ability to execute upon it with an XMO. If you don't have the right people, if you don't spend enough time, it's not going to happen.
Cool, thank you. Hey, Maurice, just 2 quick questions to sort of wrap up here. So I'm curious also, like, what role do you see AI playing in the future of XLAs, and just like beyond the usual, I guess, dashboard upgrades? Does it have any other value?
Yes, I think in the future for sure, if AI becomes emotionally intelligent, right? Our AI engine already has the capability to get sentiment from the free-form text from the surveys that we do. So the AI engine can actually detect, okay, so the choice of words or the way they combine words, or we can sense somehow sentiment. We did a test with a few customers already, and they could relate to it, but it was correct in a way, 70% maybe. The nicest thing was actually it started also to look for correlation. So this AI told their customer with their input, well, we think that and that is related. And the customers reacted like, oh, we don't think so. Well, let us look into this. And they looked into it and they said, oh, AI is actually right in this case, right? There was hard connections. There was no sentiment connections, but you were talking about word. We see CPU, blah, 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 whatever, technical conclusions. There's context in there that the people did not see. That's why AI will give you benefit, because there's a lot of data to consume. And imagine an XLA that is not just about IT, but also other data sources. It becomes almost impossible as a human to derive a conclusion from it. So there it will definitely play a role. But we also noticed in the testing that the AI engine, and in that case it was ChatGPT, that said, oh, and I've categorized a few of those sentiment figures under a certain category. And that was totally incorrect, right? Because there was no emotional intelligence behind it. It was just, well, the zeros and the ones, this is a new category, are therefore classified under that category. Incorrect. So at the moment, emotionally, no. Context awareness within the free-form text, yes, if it's just the taggy stuff, right? The wording. But for the real sentiment, we need this emotional AI. It is out there already, very expensive, probably because it needs to learn a lot still. But yeah, within 5 years, I don't think we can even live without it anymore.
Very cool and really interesting with that test. It sounds like a therapist of a sort, kind of connecting pieces that you didn't know that were right in front of you.
Exactly.
So for this last one, you might have touched upon it already, but like if you could invent a brand new XLA that no one's tracking yet, what would it be and why?
Yeah, I think the one I just described, Richard Branson, I love the Virgin brand. Because I think specifically because he was always fighting against the vested authorities like British Airways, for instance, right? British Airways said no Union Jack on our airplanes, and the first thing that Virgin did, Richard Branson, okay, put a Union Jack on our airplanes. So he was always this free fighter, this I want to be new, I want to be, the company people want to work for, and that stuff. So he said, if you take care of your employees, they will take care of your business. It is as simple as that. And I think what I just described, it's the happy employee, it's the loyal, the proud employee, living up to the customer, the organization brand, the brand awareness, the brand experience, therefore making the shareholders happy. I think if you can come to an XLA on that level, acting on those 20, I think I said 20 measure points, not just IT, but also all the other stuff that makes you happy to work for the organization you work for, in our case, Nexthink, of course, and get those insights for HR, for marketing, for the facility people, for all the people involved to make our journey within Nexthink the best journey there is, right? Because we feel taken care of. If you can define an XLA or a combination of XLAs dealt by such an XMO, call it the happy employee XMO, whatever you want to call it, that would be my dream XLA.
Talking of dream XLAs, Maurice, I got to ask, right? if I want a Maurice XLA of Nexthink, what do you love most about working here? Because I get a sense of a lot of passion and enthusiasm coming off you for the company. And I want to, if you had to put your finger on it, what would it be?
Well, the product. I love the product. And how it fits within the whole infrastructure, the whole world of processes, et cetera, et cetera. But also, it's a company that allows the free thinking, like Richard Branson. If you have a great idea, just shout it out. They will challenge you. They will be critical. Fine. It makes you think about the stuff, but still, it's never to put you down. It's always to lift you up and give you the opportunity to grow. And that's what I think I love the most, and the passion we all have, actually.
I love that. And I think I used to ask that question all the time at the end of these episodes. It was always the people. And it's not that that's untrue, the people are great here, but it was a little repetitive. But I was glad, I think you put your finger on some other wonderful aspects of being a Nexthinker. And you might not consider yourself an authority on the XLA, but we certainly do, Maurice. And I think our listeners certainly will after this conversation. Thanks for adding that extra layer of insight. Refer listeners again to that Alan Nance conversation as well. If they want a complimentary brother episode, as it were, do check that one out. We'll have the link in the show notes. Just remains for us to say, Maurice, thank you so much for joining us on Reality Bytes for the first time, my friend.
And thank you for having me. It was a great opportunity.
Wonderful.
To make sure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a rating of the show. Just tap the number of stars you think the podcast deserves. If you'd like to learn more about how Nexthink can help you improve your digital employee experience, head over to nexthink.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.